Join me as we talk all things true crime.
Made contact and shattered.
Liberty, a missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in and advised that the mother had went for a walk, came home, now they can't find her, they've been feeling for her.
Turn it over to another agency. Let's get some help.
Where are your kids? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say? You're over here in Hawaii? Chad, where are Lori's kids?
4 were stabbed multiple times and were likely asleep during the attack. Some had defensive wounds.
Most of them had just like one that was the lethal stab wound.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here for another ATS live stream. We are covering the AlexMurdaugh trial. Obviously, court starts in a little over an hour, so we're just going to go through the 911 call and the crime scene and just examine it and discuss it. And yeah, I guess we should just really get into it. Good morning, all my moderators and everyone in chat. Thank you for being here. If you haven't hit like or subscribed, it's greatly appreciated if you could do so. So thank you so much. And hello, Mark Klein, Princess Megan Elsa, Ashley Oaks, Florida Bass. I saw Karen in here, Angela, Adrian, Pam. Thank you all for being here, and everyone else who is joining us. Thanks for being here. So what I've put together is just, the same thing that I've been doing, just some highlights from the week of the trial, as well as just some evidence from the case that we can just sit here and discuss. So we're going to go through and talk about the caretaker who stood on trial. His name was Davis. His last name is Davis. I think his first name's Roger. So he testified also, and then I've got some notes here as well that I want to go through with you guys. So I'll just start playing the visual and we can just get into the discussion, okay? So thank you again, everyone, for being here. And like I said, in between things, I'll be pausing it and then we can elaborate. And I've got my notes that I can just read off and just go through some facts, okay? So let me just start playing it and then we will pause as we go. So thank you all for being here.
Usually around 4 or 5 o'clock, I go get a shower, and I'm in my recliner usually the rest of the day.
Okay, so if you're not in bed, you're in that recliner. After you shower, you're in that recliner.
How's he?
And the day is done.
Done.
Okay. And June 7th, that was that Monday, were you done that night at whatever time you took your shower, 4 or 5 o'clock?
I was done at 4:30, 5 o'clock. I had done had my shower. I was in my recliner.
Earlier this week, caretaker Roger Dale Davis told jurors he cleaned the kennels on the day Maggie and Paul were killed on the property. Much of Davis' testimony focused on his usual cleaning routine at the kennels. He was shown photographs of the crime scene and looked at the hose, which he said he would never. I do want to pause it. Obviously, everything's blurred out. That should be blurred out. But I do want to give everyone just sort of a warning. There will be, blood kind of shown and images from the crime scene. And obviously, when we watch the body cam, we're at the crime scene. They've done their best to censor everything that they should have. But it's still kind of troubling imagery. So I just want to give everyone a warning and all that. Okay, so never have left that way. Jurors have heard evidence that Paul and Maggie's bodies were saturated with water as well as blood when cops arrived, despite the fact that it had not yet rained. On the day of the killings, Davis said he cleaned the kennels in the afternoon before leaving at 4:30. The prosecutor showed him photographs of the crime scene that night, including pools of water on the kennel floor and the hose. Davis testified that he would never have left the hose as it appeared in the photos. He also said that water would not have still been pooled at the kennels since he cleaned them, that somebody else must have hosed them down again. And that seems like an obvious conclusion, with the heat in South Carolina, with it being June. He does the kennels earlier in the day and then he, wipes it down And obviously the water and the pooling of the water would have evaporated. We do hear water running in the Snapchat video. So that kind of was brought up to Roger Davis as well while he was on the stand. So I don't know. It's just the water aspect at the crime scene to me is very interesting. I feel like even though water was going on during the Snapchat video, that, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for, that water and that hose to serve as a purpose for, clean up after the crime. So even though the defense pointed out like, oh, well, look, the hose here isn't tied up, like you said, or the hose here was in use during the Snapchat. Ultimately, I still think that it presents the idea that, there was some sort of cleanup possibly done. Now, it did start raining while they're on body cam when they show up at the residence. And then I believe they put the sheet over the bodies to kind of help preserve things and, keep the rain off of washing things off. There has been reports that, it looked like more than just water around the bodies and that there could have been some, usage of the hose. I think that it's possible for sure that the hose was used after the crime. It was used during the Snapchat video, but I still think that it's open as, something that came in use while the crime was being cleaned up. We know that next to Alex's shower was a puddle of water, and we know that he has missing clothing. So the shoes are missing, the brown dress shoes, and the blue seafoam polo dress shirt is missing. So does that pool of water come into play as far as, did he hose himself off, go inside and change or shower, took off those wet clothes, and that's what that pool next to the water is from? He got rid of the shirt, but it leaves the puddle there. So I don't know. I think that the water aspect is interesting, but I do agree that it's not really sticking as far as like an aha moment for the prosecution. Although, they do bring up the fact that, well, let me just keep playing this and we can listen in. But I was just going to say that the caretaker listens to the Snapchat video. And again, I believe he's the sixth person to identify the voice as Alex. However, the suggestion that Murdaugh had used the hose after the shootings was dashed by defense attorney Jim Griffin. He played a video taken by Paul at the kennels at around 8:45, in which a hose can be seen not put away in the neat way described by Davis. And now I will play this Snapchat video, but I do want to pause it for a second and just kind of talk about, what the hose could have gotten rid of. That would have been key. Footprints around the scene definitely would have been key. The fact that we don't have any GSR, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, chat, and those watching on replay, there was no blood found on Alex's shoes. Is that right, guys? The sneakers he was wearing, they found no GSR gunshot residue on it. And they also found there was no blood on the bottom. So I don't know. Were there footprints that were there, that were muddy, that were bloody, that have been washed away? It's just, we don't know.
Get back. Get back. Quit, Cash. Come. Quit. It's okay. Come here. It's not bad. Come here, Cash. Shit. Come here. Post it. Cash.
Hey, he's got a bird in his mouth. Bubba.
Hey, Bubba.
That's a guinea.
This is a chicken.
Come here, Bubba.
Come here, Cash.
Come here, Bubba.
Cash. Quit.
Come here, Bubba.
When asked about the footage by the prosecution, Davis confirmed he could hear the voices of Alex, Paul, and Maggie in the background. The caretaker told the court how he had once shot an injured dog as a mercy because Alec couldn't bring himself to do it. He described Maggie as so laid back that they would often chat about the dogs. Davis described Paul as a little wild and crazy, but he would work on the land and do whatever his daddy needed him to do. He said Alex wasn't around much, he was often at work, but he found that he could be very particular about how he wanted things done. Davis described the Murdaugh's relationship as lovey-dovey. I never saw the man even raise his voice to his wife and kids, he said. Anything she wanted or the boys wanted, he would try to get it for them. Murdaugh liked to spend time hunting and drinking beer with Paul, Davis said. The caretaker said he did not see Buster as much, but he always seemed friendly with his father. At 7:56 p.m. Okay, now before we just kind of recap a little bit of a timeline. Good morning, Matt Bond. It's good to see you. He said either he is trained in crime scene cleanup or he didn't attempt to check a pulse. Now, I believe, I just don't think that he checked them. In fact, when we get to the part of the 911 call, he's discussing the scene, this and that on the call. And she's saying, now, are you sure they're not moving? And you can literally hear him like texting, like while he's on the phone with dispatch, in my opinion. Well, listen to it. You guys let me know. But he just seems like he's either texting or he's just preoccupied doing something else. And he's not checking them. Like, I don't even think he's around the bodies at that point in the call, but we'll get there. So stick around for that. We are going through some stuff with great detail. So thank you all for being here. I've seen a lot more people join. So thank you so much. Hit the like if you haven't. And Tom N, good morning. He said, Amber, mods and subs, good morning. Leave your DNA on the like button and hit the notification and bell. Have a beautiful Friday, everyone. Thank you so much, Tom N. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you. So just to recap a little bit, good morning, Allison, Jesse. It's good to see you guys. So yeah, we'll just recap. Hi, Kid Kitty and Mel Mac I saw as well. A little bit of the timeline here. PM, Paul sent a Snapchat video to friends showing the 22-year-old riding around the estate with his father.
Better than it was, ain't it?
At 8:15 p.m., Alex's wife Maggie arrived home and the trio ate dinner together. Autopsies showed similar stomach contents in Maggie and Paul. At 8:30, Paul's phone starts moving towards the kennels. Then at 8:44, a second video taken by Paul at the kennels, soon to become a murder scene, allegedly proves that Maggie, Paul, and Alec were together. At 8:49, the prosecution say Paul's phone locked and went silent forever, never to send another text or make another call. Between 9 p.m. and 9:30, Paul and Maggie were killed according to the coroner. At 9:06, Murdaugh's car is fired up. The alleged killer said he went to visit his mother, who is in the late stages of Alzheimer's disease in Almeida, around 15-minute drive. Now give me a second to kind of rewind and go back to that drone footage, the overview of the property. Okay, so here, you see his vehicle. It's driven around the kennels, and that's where he had parked it. Something I had noticed in his second interview, the second police interview he does, which guys, we've clipped some highlights of the interviews too in here. So we are going to go through the crime scene, the 911 call, and some of his interviews. But in his second interview, where he's wearing the blue striped polo shirt in the vehicle, he mentions, his steps that he took that night, and gosh, I can't even remember exactly what he was saying, but the main point is that's what it was. He said that he drove his car back to the house to get his rifle. So he drove down there, sees the scene, calls 911, tells 911, according to him, that I'm going to go get a rifle right now. Let cops know that there'll be a gun on me when they get here. And he tells everybody in the vehicle in that interview that he drove back to the house, right? Now, at that point, I'm not 100% sure if it started raining or not, but from what I'm understanding and seeing on the body cam, like it's possible that there was a bit of sprinkling and starting to rain or precipitation as he's on like the 911 call. Again, I'm not exactly sure like the hours with the almanac that day, like when the rain started coming down, but I find it interesting that like we really only see one pair of like tracks here. And he says something about driving down there twice, and I'm just very curious to know like were there other tire tracks from him going with 2 trips, because some people have speculated that he had to run back to his house for the rifle. In fact, we found out this week that, a crime scene investigator testified that tire tread marks were found on the leg of Maggie. So she came in contact with a ATV around the same time of the fatal shooting, and that is what they are alleging. And they did like tire comparisons and impressions and all that, and really, compared it. So this Dr. Kenneth Kinsley clarified that the impressions do not mean Maggie Murdaugh was run over, but rather that she came in contact with the vehicle at some point that night when she was murdered. And so I was just looking through that comment section of the video describing like, the ATV and all that, because I've been watching the highlights and really taking a lot of notes for you guys. But I did find some of the comments interesting. First off, just talking about the timeline overall, you guys let me know what you think about these. So somebody commented, I believe the cell phone timeline in establishing guilt is crucial in this case. The family was addicted to their cell phone, and Maggie and Paul would have surely answered the calls if they were alive. So I think that this person's basically saying, in all the interviews where we hear Alex speak about, I tried to call them and they didn't answer, yada, yada, that is creating its own timeline as far as like the real events, because it just seems obvious that Paul and Maggie would have, answered their phone. And we see up until it goes silent for both of them, they really were active, every few minutes, or there's some type of trail of them on their phone. So another comment that I thought was interesting was Alec may as well have signed his name on the bodies once he caused all this devastation to them. Evidence doesn't lie. And then I think Alex intended to drive the ATV back to the house so that he could quickly get over to his mother's and thereby establish his alibi. However, after hosing off, he forgot the exact position of Maggie's body and drove the ATV over her. Anyone who's ever watched My Cousin Vinny knows that tires leave unique tracks, so he had to abandon the ATV and hike up to the house, which took more time. Had the ATV been found at the house with the tire print on Maggie's leg, Alec could never have explained it. And then somebody else wrote, I think it is more likely he accidentally drove over her leg in the dark while backing up in a hurry than intentionally running her over her leg. The fastest way to get around a big country property is on an ATV, and he was in a hurry to get to his mother's house for the alibi. So I just thought those comments were interesting. We had known for a while that Maggie had some sort of print on her leg. People speculated it was a footprint. Until the trial, we just didn't know. Come to find out, they're comparing it to an ATV tire impression that the family owns. So now we have these tire impressions on one of the victims, and we have them killed by the family gun. So it's just a lot of weird stuff for them to be able to explain. Does he? I haven't even seen that movie in so long. After watching this court battle, I think all high-profile cases should be televised by the state to help pay for court fees instead of taxpayers. Oh, that's a good idea. BT26X agrees. He either owed dealers that money or Eddie was putting that money away for him. It's impossible to take that many pills every week. No way. Agree. And Maggie's sister testified in my notes, I have written down that Paul allegedly was aware of his grandfather's pills disappearing. Can you guys kind of back up my notes there? Yeah, I think so too, Melmac. He was handled, very carefully with SLED. Melmac said, I think it's likely at least part of SLED who was corrupt too, hence why it took so long for any searches. Yeah, it's just like ridiculous. So okay, so other people heard that too. Good morning, Candace. It's good to see you. So yeah, apparently Paul was on to the fact that his grandfather's pills were disappearing. And according to Maggie's sister, he was determined to find out like what was going on. So I think that was noteworthy, especially as far as what Alec had to lose. What if people found out his dirty secrets? I don't know. I just think that was an interesting element to Maggie's sister's testimony. Alec also told Maggie's sister that Maggie didn't suffer. Come to find out, it seems though, after the medical examiner described everything, that she did suffer. He also told her that whoever did this had thought about it for a long time. So I'm not sure what you guys think about that, but I thought that was noteworthy. Disease in Almeida, around 15-minute drive. At 10:07, Murdaugh called 911, claiming he had arrived home to find his wife and son shot dead.
This is AlexMurdaugh at 4147 Moselle Road. I need the police and the ambulance immediately. My wife and child just shot badly.
Colin County Communications.
Carlton, I have an AlexMurdaugh on the line, caller from 4147 Moselle Road. He's advising that his wife and child was shot.
Okay, and sir, give me the address again.
It's 4147 Moselle Road. I've been up to it now. It's bad.
Okay. Okay, and are they breathing?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and you said it's your wife and your son?
My wife and my son.
Are they in a vehicle?
No, ma'am. They're on the ground out at my kennels.
Okay, and did you see anyone? Okay, is he breathing at all?
No, nobody.
Is she? Okay, do you see anything? Do you see anyone in the area?
Now he says no, nobody's breathing, I don't think. So it's like, did he touch them at this point? You know what I mean? Like, and also, back to the hose for a second, would the hose have been beneficial to print it, like fingerprint it? Were there other people's prints on the hose besides the caretakers and the families? Melmac said Paul was a thorn in his father's side in all sorts of ways. Agree. Now, we haven't got to the point where I feel like you can hear him texting. That's sort of near the end. So just listen in a little bit. I feel like he gets irritated with this woman. Like there's a part where now mind you, he got transferred. He accidentally calls 911 twice. And he gets transferred to this woman after he was just talking to that other guy. And in my opinion, he sounds irritated at one point, after being on the phone with her for a while. And stating his address and name, she says, "Are you in a trailer or are you in a mobile home or in a house?" And he's like, "A house." And it just sounds so much like he realizes at that point in the call, like, they don't even know who I am. Like, hello, like, it's me, AlexMurdaugh. Like to me, that's how I took it. You guys might take it differently and you let me know. At one point, 911 dispatch also asked, what is her name or whatever. And he said, at one point, he just keeps saying, my wife. And it's like, does she have a name? Like he says Paul more often than he says Maggie, which I find interesting. But yeah, and that's another point, Allison, good point. They're at my kennel, not our kennels. Yeah, exactly. It's like his verbiage is strange at times. But let me continue this so you guys can really listen in.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
What color's your house on the outside? What color is your house on the outside?
It's white. You can't see it from the road.
Okay, is it a house or a mobile home?
It's a house.
Okay, and what is your name?
My name is AlexMurdaugh.
Okay, and did you hear anything, or did you come home and find them?
No, man, I've been gone. I just came back.
Okay, and was anyone else supposed to be at your house?
No, ma'am.
Now, at this point, you can hear the dogs barking, pretty close, much closer. This is the first kind of barking we hear. Now, we know from the OnStar data and the stuff from his phone that the 911 call originated from his car. So he is getting closer to the scene while he's on the phone. You can hear like the dogs barking, etc. To me, it's like, is he at the side of his loved ones, or is he cleaning things up, kind of frantically walking around the kennels and saying things like, please hurry, when really he's like wondering like how much longer he has. Like at some points I'm wondering if he's like waiting for the dispatch to say like they're 10 minutes away, or they're already they're close by or something, but he just keeps saying like please hurry and stuff. And it's like, I just wonder what he's frantically doing at this point. Is he using the hose? Is he, picking up shell casings? Is he moving shell casings? Like, what is going on while he's on the phone with the operator? Because he's certainly not giving them CPR. Regardless if Paul was beyond saving by the looks of him, I still will argue that a parent would probably still attempt anything possibly. And they argued that with Chris Watts in his interrogation, like, why didn't you call 911 and blah, blah, blah. And any parent would do that. And, they use that against Chris Watts. Now I'm thinking like the same almost for Alec, regardless if his son's brain is out on the sidewalk. It's curious to me that it just didn't appear like he had moved them at all to try to resuscitate them. Tommen says, I think the hose is going to be key. Fingerprints, AlexMurdaugh with blood from Paul and Maggie. Random killers ain't cleaning up. I hear him frantically moving. That's what I think too. Like, it's just like he's out of breath because he's like walking around this scene. Like, he's not out of breath because he's like running to his car to call 911. Like, it's like, I'm so curious what was really going on at this point. Good morning, CDT. It's good to see you. You came in right at my impersonation. And don't be offended, anyone who's in the South, like when I impersonate Southern accents. I'm sure it doesn't sound authentic at all. But Alec has such a distinct voice. At one point in the body cam footage, the officer asks, like, and what is her name? And as a joke, my fiance, of course, is hearing all this editing, and he says, my wife, like says it out loud, like answering for Alec. And it's so true in a way, because like he doesn't ever really say her name. Her name might as well just be my wife, Murdaugh.
Please hurry.
We're getting somebody out there to you.
Oh, man. Oh.
Okay, what is her name?
And this is where he answers her with her real name instead of saying my wife for once.
Maggie and Paul.
Maggie is her name?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And please hurry.
We're getting somebody out there to you. Me asking you these questions, don't slow them down, okay? And you sure they're not breathing? Is he moving at all, your son? I know you said that she was shot, but what about your son?
Nobody's. They're not. Neither one of them's moving.
Now, here's where I feel like I start to hear a bit of texting or something is like
he's preoccupied doing something, and it's not preoccupied checking them for a pulse.
What is your telephone number? And does anything look out of place?
Ma'am, not particularly, really, no, ma'am.
Like, he seemed like annoyed with that question. Is anything out of place? He's like, ma'am. It's like, and then we find out that Maggie's wedding ring was under her seat. So to me, as a husband, if I was a husband, you know, I'd be so confused, obviously, like why this happened, because they seem to have no enemies, etc. Even though that boat accident had occurred, you know, why Maggie? She didn't rub anybody the wrong way, you know. You know, I would be thinking, did they try to rob her? Like, I know that my wife has expensive jewelry, like, you know, but he just didn't notice that her wedding ring was missing, I guess. You know, that to me, even for the officers not to notice that, like, when was it noticed? Was it at her autopsy that she didn't have her wedding ring? Like, I'm very confused, like, why the wedding ring was found under her seat. Yeah, Matt Bond sounded like he was distracted. That does sound like he is texting. I never noticed that. I didn't notice it either, Jesse, until I was like editing it. And I'm like, what? Yes, Alec is moving around here. He's doing something here. Do we know how much longer the trial is expected to last? I don't know. Like, I feel like the problem is they're doing like a trial within a trial. So it almost seemed like we got derailed the entire last week because of his financial information. And then now we're getting back into like the murder. I wouldn't be surprised if there's still like, what do you guys think, Karen? 2-3 weeks left? I forgot he would have had to wait extra time for law enforcement to arrive. SLED did not do a good job with all of this. I agree. Like I feel like they should be sort of embarrassed. Like everyone's seen like what took place here. But I will say that the officers, like the first responding guys, it seemed like they had it together. It's just everything being handled as far as like evidence and like organization seems to be where they really started to fall off. You know, like why wasn't his clothes collected right then and there, and his shoes, and why didn't they go over to his mother's house immediately? Instead, it wasn't until months later, you know?
Do y'all store any weapons out here?
Now, in addition to that other stuff we went through, I do want to go through kind of the weapons conversation that Alec has with them, because obviously they've come to the determination that they were killed with family guns. The guns are missing. We don't have the murder weapons. Not only are the guns missing, but we have more than one .300 blackout that is not accounted for. So there's 3 shotguns missing from the Murdaugh's gun collection I have written down. The replacement .300 blackout rifle went missing in December 2020. So I also have it written down that the lead investigator was unaware that Alec's shirt tested negative for blood until November 2022. So Maggie's sister also said that Alec was intent on clearing Paul's name from the boat case, which she thought was strange because, you know, she was determined to find out who killed her sister. But it says that Maggie's sister's perception of Alex changed after the roadside shooting in September. So, and also Alex's brother-in-law testifies that that's Alex's voice in the kennels. Maggie Murdaugh was aware of Alex's drug addiction, and obviously Paul was too, if he was determined to find out who was taking, you know, the pills from his grandfather, etc. So a presumptive test on Murdaugh's t-shirt tested positive for blood. but the serology testing yielded negative results for blood. So it just seems very mixed and not stable ground as far as like the blood test for his shirts and stuff. What do you guys think? And then I'll go back into some notes after we play a little bit of this stuff. So what I want to kind of focus on here is, you know, how he reacts to conversations about the guns. You know, we know that he comes out saying like, well, Paul told me that he had blah, 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 and it went missing. And then in his second interview, he really like goes hard on that theory. Like he uses the term stolen a lot in his second interview, like when referencing Paul's guns. But in this first one, he kind of like toys around with the idea of saying like it went missing or whatever. It just seems like if Paul really had a gun that went missing or possibly stolen, it would have been something in this first interview that he really would have tried to like drill into the investigators' minds. Like, you know what, this is crazy because I just remembered that Paul had a gun that was stolen, blah, 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 blah. We never found it. Like, you don't think that that person came back with his gun, do you? You know, like we didn't really get that from Alec in this first interview. So I just want to kind of compare the conversations regarding the guns. I feel like Alec gets like nervous body language as well. So just pay attention to his legs and stuff like that. Like he just gets uncomfortable when he's asked about the guns. And mainly I think it's because he knows that he has hidden those weapons, or he knows that the murder weapons are missing. I find it very unsettling also that him and Paul did target practice that day. You know, anyone who handles a gun, you know, especially in the professional field, like that law enforcement source that I talk about, he goes to the shooting range all the time just to keep up with like a skill. Like it's not something that you can just put down and like not pick up. Like to be a good shooter, like you have to work at it, you have to practice it. So it troubles me that Alec was practicing in a way, you could say, for what took place later that day. You know, he's with Paul and he's doing target practice, and he makes it sound like, oh, it's just playful. You know, it's just what we do here in the South. We have so many guns, blah, blah, blah. But in the sense, it's just so like sinister thinking about it. Like when you think like if he had any part in this, if he pulled the trigger for either of them, you know, because I'm not 100% that he pulled them for both of them. Maybe he just did one and there's somebody else involved. I'm still toying around with all that. But the fact that he did target practice that day is like really unsettling to me.
We don't store them, but they're frequently out here. I need to find out if there were any out here because.
And I totally agree with Tom's comment. I can't pull it up on it because YouTube will get upset, but I do. Let me see if I can kind of decipher to you guys what he's saying, which I think is definitely possible. So Tom is saying, my theory, Alex points gun at Paul. Paul stops barrel. First shot hits Paul in the shoulder. Now Alec can't make it look like an accident or that he was going to like a self-infliction. So I think that theory it makes a lot of sense in a way. Like, was Alec hoping to make it seem like Paul did this to himself but the thing is, like I said this to my fiance and he's like, but why his mother? You know, like why do that to his mother and then end his own? So, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, but it almost makes more sense to think that like maybe Paul, they wanted it to look like Paul had his back up against the wall because of the charges he was facing and he just couldn't take it anymore and he snapped. But basically, like you said, something went wrong in that and then it ended the way it did. So I think that is definitely a good theory. I think it makes a lot of sense to kind of think that, like, yes, this was supposed to be a staging of something else and it went wrong. I think that kind of makes more sense in a way than to think that Alec was just going to do this to them because of whatever. I think that him staging his own accident like that in September definitely makes it seem like, oh yeah, he definitely could have staged this then too. So was it something that went wrong, you know? What do you guys think about that theory? I'm there with you, Tom, and for sure. I think that that's definitely possible, that it was supposed to look one way and then, it didn't end the way that it was supposed to.
I know there was a shotgun. There was a 12-gauge shotgun out here. I'll have to find out exactly when that was. I think it got put up, but I'm not positive.
What did that shotgun look like?
It was a camouflage. I want to say it was a Benelli or maybe a Beretta. I can't remember which brand it is. But I don't think it was out here.
Okay.
Recently. But I'm not positive.
And the shotgun that you had when deputies pulled up, where did that come from?
I went to the house and I got a gun. Probably overreacting, but...
And was that when you pulled up and...
Now, why would he think that that's overreacting? I still don't understand that. Like they're at this point too, like while they're sitting in the car, there allegedly is a killer out there. And look how relaxed Alec is. Like he's not even like looking over his shoulder. Like, are you guys sure this person's not coming back? You know what I mean? Like I'd still be like, what the heck's going on? Like, are they coming back? But yeah, why would he think he was overreacting by grabbing the rifle? It just makes no sense why he tries to walk that back.
Saw them?
No, I came out and, I called 911 first.
Mm-hmm.
Talked to them for a little while, and then I told her.
You told her?
That I was going to go to the house.
Okay.
And that I would let authorities know when they got here that I had a gun.
Okay. Do you happen to have a list of all your guns?
I can make one. I don't have one, but I can make one.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, so we could compare if that...
Now, this is, of course, the night of, and he says, I can make you an inventory list. I don't have one. When we look at his second interview in the car with the blue shirt, which will be followed up after this clip, it seems as though they're still waiting for that inventory list from him. And that interview was 3 days after the murder. So still at this point, he makes this empty promise like, oh yeah, I'll get you guys an inventory, but then never follows through with it still while he gets to the next interview. They're still waiting for that list. So he never, and anyone can argue that as like, well, he just lost his family. Why would he go home and write up a list, etc.? But I don't know. What do you guys think? And good morning, Corey, and everyone else who has joined us.
Shotgun was out here, and now it's missing.
Absolutely.
Try to figure that out.
And now here, remember, they're talking about this missing shotgun of Paul's. He never once says in this first interview, like, it was stolen. Or he said it was stolen, like that doesn't come out until he's like cornered again in the next interview about like the guns and stuff. Like the gun subject is not a comfortable subject, in my opinion, for Alex.
I know, absolutely.
And I know living out here in the country, you probably have more than one or two.
We do. We probably have 20, 25 guns.
Yeah, shotguns, rifles,
pistols.
Any rifles?
Yes, sir.
What kind of rifles?
All kinds.
Yeah.
All kinds. You name it across the board, we have them.
Okay.
And all of them we have are, in a hunting room in our house.
Y'all obviously got a lot of, I say a lot, you said 20 or 25 weapons.
Yes, sir.
And you know kind of what you got as far as any kind of, what kind of weapons you may have?
Now, again, they're still waiting for that inventory list that he said that he would write up for them. He's got his tissue. And mind you, right before this, like we're going to watch this whole interview at some point, but not today. But right before this, he was sort of doing that fake crying again, like when he's talking about Maggie and he's like, she didn't have to work. So he just was breaking down literally like seconds before they're asking again about the guns, right? So instantly he starts to kind of get, like, in my opinion, not defensive, but sort of like brash in a way, or not combative even, but like you can just tell like this is just not a subject that he really wants to dwell on or linger about, you know? Like at one point he even says to this guy, like, don't you have an inventory or something like that? Like kind of like questioning, like, you don't have that by now, like yourself. Just strange in my opinion. So the gun subject comes up again. This again is a day before the funerals and 3 days after the murders. And, you know, again, it's just watch his body language, etc.
I'm pretty much, yes, sir. I know you might not remember them all, but can you kind of run down what you, for us, kind of what you had? What you got, you know, right there?
That I own or that's in there now?
That you own.
All right. That I own.
That's in there, you know, or wherever they're at.
And, you know, I mean, Paul has guns scattered all over the place. So, you know, some of our guns aren't there. But, so you want to know.
And isn't it just terrible? He just throws Paul under the bus. Like, well, Paul has, and Paul's not even here to like defend himself. Like, or not even defend himself, but be like, no, like, I don't do that. Like, it's just, he's interesting enough, like the person that could actually confirm that anything that Alec is saying is dead.
All of them, or you want to know what I think is in my house?
And for him to kind of prolong this answer too, like, you want to know all of them? It's like, just answer the question. Like, don't you want to find out who did this to your family? Like, I just don't understand why he like beats around the bush with it. You know what I mean? Like, you should be able to answer and help them. Instead, he's like, what do you want to know? Like, you know, I don't want to sit here all day naming them all off.
Or what was in my house on Monday?
Yeah, what was in your house? Let's start with what was in your house on Monday.
Okay, whatever was in my house on Monday is exactly what was there, minus one shotgun that y'all got.
Okay.
No guns have been moved for, you know, there hadn't been any guns moved in and out of there other than when Paul was home. You know, when Paul came home, he would ride around and shoot hogs a lot.
What would he shoot hogs with?
You know, I mean, primarily he would shoot them with Buster's gun. Because Paul had a 300 Blackout.
Okay. And
it got, you know, he says it got stolen. You know, and it's been gone for some time.
Now here we see it says Paul lost his gun and bought himself a replacement rifle. Now maybe Alec bought the replacement. I can't remember the details on that, but a third 300 Blackout in April 2018, and neither of the lost weapons or its replacement has been accounted for. So, Tom, you're funny. A lot of scheming, apparently, in this case. Now, remember, this is the interview that he starts saying stolen, it was stolen. Where in the first interview where I had played minutes ago, he never once uses the word stolen. You know, it just seemed like he really kind of doubles down on it on this one.
But anyway, so he would use his brother's Blackout a lot of times.
So Buster also had a 300?
I gave them both one.
Okay. When was that?
About years ago.
Okay. More than a year ago.
More than a year ago.
Okay.
All right. So, but he would do anything. Paul had this, you know, like little light that I used that night, Paul would take that thing up to, my.
Now here he's got, he's rubbing his nose, giving extra detail a little bit. Like he just doesn't really want to dwell on, where these guns are and what guns they have and which ones they can account for. So he starts to give extra fluff here, and then he like circles it back around.
308, and I mean he was always rigging something. So sometimes shotguns when he would go try to kill the hogs, because the piglets would be grouped up, but normally he would have a rifle when he went to shoot the pigs. So all right, so going back to the guns, y'all want me to tell y'all what was in there? Don't y'all, have an inventory?
I videoed the thing. I didn't write down everything that you had. I just took a random, just like a recording of what was on the gun rack or on the gun wall in the gun room that day.
And there are some more guns that aren't in that gun room, I don't know how many, but like I do know there's a shotgun in my bedroom.
And I think Miss Katie, Agent Katie, walked with John and saw that one.
And now he really wants to make it clear that, like, we just have guns everywhere. Like, I don't have any organization. Sorry. It's just, I got this here. Paul was always doing this, and Paul did that, and Paul, it's all him. And then he'll take a drink of water here, like he just really doesn't want to be questioned about, the specifics, and he wants to make it seem like, well, our property was just so free and loose with guns, and basically the defense, in my opinion, is trying to make it seem like, anyone could have seen that gun there and picked it up and killed them. Well, for one, they would have had to have been pretty familiar with the property, in my opinion, because it's just unique. It's a unique property. And I also have it written down here in my notes. There was no life insurance policies for Alec, Buster, Maggie, or Paul. And the Moselle home was not checked for blood or bloody clothing, and there were no photos taken. And we kind of talked about that in our last live stream with Blanca's testimony. And we went through with what she claimed that she walked in and seen, etc. And, we just don't have crime scene pictures of the house, unfortunately. We just have the crime scene photos at the kennels. So just another misstep in SLED, in my opinion. The blue tarp found in Murdaugh's mother's closet was not tested for GSR either. Murdaugh's former paralegal recounts finding discrepancies in the Ferris case and finding the stolen funds. We have more than 6 witnesses who identify Murdaugh's voice on the kennel video. And the car data showed that he had called 911 twice, which we talked about. So just looking at more. Okay, so birdshot bullets found in the feed room left behind by the crime scene investigators. So that's a problem. They didn't even collect all the birdshot bullets. So gunshot residue was found on Alex's t-shirt and shorts, but not on his shoes. And remember, we don't have his brown shoes. So where are the shoes? Would those have had gunshot residue on it? A significant amount of gunshot residue was found on the inside of the rain jacket found in Murdaugh's mother's home in Alameda, South Carolina. No blood evidence was found on the blue rain jacket. So we also know that he told his mother's caretaker to lie to the investigators about his time frame that he was there for. She claims he was only there for 20 minutes, but he wanted her to say longer, and he claims he was there much longer too. I think he said hour and a half. So there were no fingerprints or usable fingerprints found on bullets, casing, or Paul's cell phone. So 300 blackout casings and shells found on Maggie's body and at the shooting range had matching mechanism marks and were consistent with having 47 grains and matched the empty bullet box inside the home. but people are still unsure about those markings. To me, I think they're pretty good. They're solid evidence, as well as the Snapchat video. Just looking at more stuff. So the guns taken from the Moselle property did not match the casings found around the property of the crime scene. Paul Murdaugh's and several unidentified bloody footprints seen in the feed room. So apparently there's unidentified bloody footprints. Stippling on Maggie Murdaugh's body indicates she was shot at close range. And now people are trying to say, maybe he was on the ATV. Terrible. Paul's last phone calls and texts were revealed. We already went through those. Maggie's phone was found 1/4 to almost a half mile away. Now, that's the other thing, guys, which makes me think there's more than one person. And I'm sorry I haven't looked at chat while I'm looking at notes, but why, how much time? It's a very short window for Alec to change, take a shower, hose off, they're alleging, possibly go to his mother's, etc. And the cell phone being found 1/4 to a half mile away, wouldn't his car have shown if he had driven near that area and stopped it and then threw the phone, or was the phone thrown out while he was driving, etc.? I don't know. It's just a lot of the stuff that I'm looking at, to me, seems like there's somebody else helping Alec. I don't know how you guys are feeling about that, but I just can't help but feel like there's more here than just him alone. So he says that he thought he heard a car pull up between his nap and leaving his mother's. But again, he kind of walks that back in his next interview, which we'll get into. Just looking through notes real quick before I continue this conversation about the guns. So yeah, they searched the pond and a portion of the river located near the property for the murder weapons. Obviously, they didn't find them. So the jurors were shown evidence in the case, including Paul's shoes, a seatbelt retrieved from Alex's SUV, and multiple fired and unfired bullet casings. Tom says every gun has different setups. You have to be familiar with gun in hand to operate the gun in these manners. It's been determined they are family guns. And that's what's making, I think, Alex so nervous here is he knows more and he's just very uncomfortable with this whole conversation about the murder weapons. And thank you again, Tom. I appreciate that.
Okay. And I imagine there's probably some in some other rooms. I know that I think it was we have two gun cases, one small one and one big one, and I moved some guns from the little case to the big case just because, her mom and dad were in there, and I just took all the guns to the back room. But that's after the fact.
Would those guns have been in the room, in the gun room when we came up there with John?
I can't remember exactly when y'all came, but probably. I think y'all came a little bit because it was a good while before y'all came.
Yeah, it was probably 2 o'clock before we got there.
And now, his leg was kind of fidgety there. He was drinking the drink, buying him more time with his answers, or perhaps dry mouth. Millie says as a high profile attorney, he would have known to have a firearm. If you have a firearm stolen or went missing, you have to report it to the police. Exactly. And he knew better also in that same sense than to have his housekeeper go there and clean up the scene. That's the other thing is why were the cops not there first thing in the morning taking pictures of the house? Instead, the housekeeper was there after she met up with Alec and Buster at the grandparents' house.
Now, did y'all keep any guns out at the kennels?
We didn't keep guns out there, but there were always guns out there.
Okay.
I mean, and I'm gonna be honest with you, we were all a little bit bad about it, but Paul was the worst. You know, he was the worst.
He would leave a gun out there?
He would leave anything, anywhere. And, you know, it was not unusual for there to be guns out there.
Did y'all take the,
But, like, I can tell you that, I mean, they told me that a 300 blackout was used in this. That 300 blackout, you know, it was not out there.
so y'all didn't use that for target practice, or he didn't have it out there with them on Monday?
No.
Okay, no, that's right, because it was in the house. So Paul said that one was stolen or lost, and it was some time ago. Was that reported anywhere?
It wasn't officially reported because.
And here's the thing. He's about to say it wasn't officially reported because I wasn't certain that it was actually stolen. Okay, but regardless, like if you have something that's missing, especially that type of weapon, you know, you should and would have had to have thought, you know, like I should say something, or I should create a paper trail to let anyone know that like this is missing. But that didn't happen. Now, I also want to note, which I have written in my notes, that, you know, he doesn't start talking about this gun being stolen to the cops until 31 minutes into this conversation. So this is his second interview. You know, the first one, it took around 20 minutes for him to say that there's like a missing gun of Paul's, but I kind of let that slide a little bit because it's the night of the murders and, you know, there's other things to kind of probably break down in his mind than a missing or stolen gun. But this second interview, which is 3 days later, you know, it takes him 31 minutes to use the term stolen when we're talking about guns. You know, you would think that would be something like, guys, I need to let you guys know the other night we spoke about my inventory, just realized like, yeah, that gun is stolen. It's gone. There's a 300 blackout that unaccounted for, blah, blah. Instead, he's not really giving that information up until he's kind of questioned about this. And it's taken 31 minutes into his second interview. They matched bullets from the property fire range to bullets found in the body of Maggie. Paul is known to have helped on everything. I can see a second person. Yeah. And there's, you know, the money that's unaccounted for, you know, people want to know where his money is, and, you know, it all didn't go to drugs, etc. And I agree. I think that there's offshore accounts, and, you know, a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but I'm saying criminals who use offshore accounts will hire and do criminal activity with that money because it's offshore. So that's kind of like the perfect explanation for this money of his that's missing, you know, offshore accounts. And also he could have hired people to help him with all this with that money. And then there's no paper trail.
I wasn't totally convinced it was stolen.
Okay.
You know, as opposed to lost. But I mean, you know, there were people told about it.
Yeah.
I know that I told John Bedingfield about it. I know that I told some other local officers about it, you know, just in case it turned up in a drug thing.
Okay.
But I didn't do an official report.
Okay.
Last question. When you were out there at 5 o'clock at the kennels in Moselle, were there any firearms anywhere on that property?
That night, that particular day?
That particular day.
I did not see none.
Thank you.
So that, you know, was the caretaker testifying that, you know, the day that he cleaned the kennels, he was around the property, etc. He didn't see any of those guns out there. So just wanted to lay that out there. And also, this is just some footage of the drone footage of the property. I found it very helpful in kind of envisioning the whole the area. So I'm just going to play this while I go through some chat comments with you guys, and then we can switch it to the actual body cam footage of the night of. And I know that court will be starting soon. They're usually late, but I just figured I would just play a good portion of the body cam footage, especially when they arrive. You know, I really want to look at his face as, you know, they're arriving and just kind of see his acting, in my opinion. Yeah, I agree. He doesn't have a good poker face, whereas I think Buster has a really good poker face. So yeah, this is just the the drone footage of the property. And then I'll switch it to the body cam footage. But what are you guys thinking about there being more than one person? Now, I'm not set on any theory, but with everything that I've seen so far, it just wouldn't surprise me if there's somebody else involved. Also, I want to know, you know, I seen you guys talking in chat a little bit while I was reading the notes about, will Alec testify? Did they say yes? Because the last I had seen it was yes, he's going to. And when is Eddie, what's everyone call him? Cousin Eddie, or when's he testifying? Let me look through some notes also. I'm glad that it could make you laugh, April. So yeah, neither Maggie or Paul had defensive wounds on them from their attacker. Obviously, we know that Maggie had that tire impression on her leg. We kind of spoke about that earlier in the live stream. Now, these are actual crime scene photos, and then this little segment will end. So people are thinking he did it alone. I also think the money is in offshore accounts for other illegal reasons, drug smuggling, etc. Corey said I wouldn't be surprised if someone else is involved. Yes, Karen, everyone will have a Southern accent after this trial. I'm about to listen to like country music too. Yeah, I pretty much went through all the notes I had for you guys. Good morning, Twisted Gemini and everyone else. So yeah, these are the crime scene photos. Let me switch up my screen. And thank you all for being here. If CDT is still in chat, I'm not sure if she's going live, but if you are, feel free to let us know and what topic, and we will join you in chat later.
Got a Whiskey Fox, Whiskey Mike, both gunshot wounds to the head.
Sir, I want to let you know, because of the scene, I did go get a gun and bring it down here.
It's in your vehicle? Do you have any guns on you at all?
No, sir. It's leaning up against the side of my car.
Okay. You're fine, man. You're fine. Turn around for me.
I don't have.
He always refers to, like, I don't know, the way he says the scene, like he says it to this officer, and he also says it in his like interviews. He's like, because of the scene. It's just like he's like detached himself by using that term. I don't know, maybe it's not making sense to you guys, but to me, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Okay. Yes, sir. I see that. Okay. This is your wife and son?
Oh, and son.
Okay.
It's bad. It's bad. Check the pulses.
Yes, sir. This is the firearm you brought from inside the house?
You hear him, is it bad? Did you check their pulses? And it's like, the 911 operator literally asked him like 3 separate times, are they breathing? Are you sure they're not breathing? Are they moving? And he was so adamant on the phone with 911. He's like, no one's breathing, blah, blah, blah. And now here, this officer arrives and he's got to put on this whole new show. You know what I mean? Like, did you check them? Are they breathing? It's like, it just seems like overkill to me. I don't know. Right, he does say the scene a lot and barely says the word murder. Right, like he never says things like, exactly. I mean, I have the same thoughts.
Sir, yes, sir. I went and got. This is a long story. My son was in a boat wreck of months.
I'm sorry, but like, don't you guys think that that's weird? First thing he says is he explains why the gun is there, you know, because like here's the thing, he thinks like a lawyer. And it's almost like he like predetermined like if this ever went to trial or whatever, they might ask him like your family was murdered but you didn't grab a gun. So he made sure to do that aspect of this whole thing, like cover up, you know what I mean? But now he's got to really explain like why the gun's there, like because of the scene. And then like all of a sudden he's got to explain like why this is the way it is. You know, I mean, we're not even a minute into this body cam footage and he's already explained why the gun's there that he grabbed and explained, you know, this is a long story and gonna get into the boat stuff. Like, how do you know what this is about? Like, I feel like most people would just be in complete denial and shock and just like, how is this happening? But instead, this guy's got it explained all, you know, let them know that like he felt unsafe enough to grab a gun. And this is all because of a boat accident, you know, all within 46 seconds of this body cam footage.
Back. He's been getting threats. Most of it's been benign stuff we didn't take serious.
Okay.
You know, he's been getting like punched. I know that's somebody. I know that's what it is.
Okay. When did you get home? Right when you called, or did you go to the house first? Where is the house?
I came to the house first. My mom has late stages Alzheimer's, and my dad is in the hospital.
Okay.
I left. I don't know what time. I can go back on my phone and tell you the exact times. Did you check?
Okay. Did I check what?
Did you check them?
We got medical guys that are that's what they're gonna do. Okay.
What are they doing? Can they hurry?
They are. Yes, sir. That gentleman that was out here already, he's one of the battalion chiefs. Okay.
And I just can't help but feel like not only is he just so fake here, but like his favorite thing to say is like, hurry, hurry, hurry. And it's like to 911, he says it. And then like here, he's like, could they hurry? And it's like, I don't know. It's just it's so fake and not authentic. And like the way he's crying, you know, like there with no like wet tears or snot coming out. It almost reminds me of like a toddler, like tantruming, where they're like, there's nothing wrong with them, but they're just standing there with their mouth gape and like, you're like, okay. Like, that's just, it just is not authentic at all. And it almost seems like the cop knows that too here. And at one point, he even takes the ammo out of the gun that is nearby.
How did you pull up? You from back there?
I went to the house and they weren't home, which was odd. I tried to call.
Okay.
And then I knew they had been down here before I left to go to my mom.
Okay.
And so that is loaded.
Okay.
You might want to unload it. But I mean,
why does he say you might want to unload it? And it's like, I'm sure the officer was going to do that anyways without being told to, but like, there's a killer out there right now. Like, what if he's right behind him? You know, and like for him to have his arms crossed is interesting too. You know, it's like he's like already looking at the way the crime scene is being handled and thinking in his mind like what they're doing wrong, what he could point out was mishandled. Like he's just like eyeing them in a way. And it gets to a point where the officer wants to take the information down of Paul and Maggie, date of birth, etc. And he kind of goes blank a little bit, like about Paul's date of birth. And I thought like, oh, maybe he forgot it. But then I'm thinking like, I think he's listening in on the scanner. Like, I think like when the scanner started talking while he was getting the info, Alec is like trying to pay attention to hear like what they're saying or like stuff like that. Like, and so he was kind of distracted given the date of birth. You'll say, but either way, you know, like why is, his defensive with his arms crossed. He's just like, he looks like he's hugging himself, like nervous, right? Like self-soothing. But yeah, just watch.
Is this the only firearm with you? This is the only one, or is there any more in the truck?
I believe that's it.
You think that's the only one?
I'm 99%.
Do you normally
certain that's
have
right.
any other firearms in your vehicle?
I don't, but
Okay.
occasionally there's a pistol in there.
Okay.
And now that's sort of a different statement than what he gives the other officers in the car when they're interviewing him. When he's being interviewed, he kind of makes it seem like, well, there could be guns anywhere and everywhere. But here, you know, he's like giving sort of a different kind of narrative to this officer.
Just wait right here for me for a second, okay?
Copy.
Kill your front line 13C.
I've been getting paid $1,000 a month, if not more.
Enjoy it, sir. Yeah, well, I've already spoken with Captain Deal. He's got crime scene. He's contacted them. He's also going to DOC assist.
All right, let me just mute it real quick. Jerry, I totally agree with you. No good reason for not bringing in tracking dogs. You know, that they would have instantly been able to determine if there was like another scent around there, or you know, what if Alec did step in blood at the scene with his leather brown boots or shoes, and then he walked back to the house, like some people are saying, you know, he ditched the ATV because it hit Maggie and the impressions, etc. You know, he ditches those shoes, but before he ditched them, he walked back to the house in them, or he walked somewhere in them. You know, wouldn't the tracking dog have been able to find the scent of, or no? Because I guess the dog would have to only be specific to blood. I don't know. What are you guys thinking? And thank you, Julia, for becoming a member. Really appreciate that, and welcome. I guess a dog would have to be able to smell blood, not just death, right?
All again. Where are you now? All right.
And here, you know, for someone who just had more than 50% of his family murdered, he's walking around very carefree. Like, what if somebody came up and was actually looking for him? You know, he's just walking so far away from like the officers and on the phone, like just very vulnerable. Like if somebody did this to me, I'd be like very close to the officers or like near their car. Like, are they coming back? Type of looking over my shoulder. Here, he's just like, you know, in a totally different mode. And I guess maybe you kind of go blank and just, you know, nothing really matters once your loved ones are dead like that. But it's just interesting how it just seems like he's just not scared at all.
Yeah, the police are here now. The police are here now. That's my brother.
Okay. When was the last time you were here with them or talked to them or anything like that?
It was earlier tonight. I don't know the exact time, but
okay.
I left. I was probably gone an hour and a half from my mom's, and I saw them about 45 minutes before that.
Okay.
I rode around with Paul for 2 hours this afternoon in the pickup truck.
That's your son, Paul? Okay.
Somebody going to check him?
Yes, sir. They've already checked them.
They did check him?
Yes, sir.
It's official that they're dead?
Yes, sir. That's what it looks like.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm very sorry. Gotta call her parents.
What's her name?
Her name is Maggie Murdaugh. Margaret Brandstetter Murdaugh. How you doing?
What's her birthday?
9/15/68.
Okay, and what's
And that was just so weird here. He's like, how you doing? To like one of the other officers. It's like his over politeness just screams more guilt to me. You know, like with his like, yes, sir, and yes, ma'am, and blah, blah, blah. It's like overkill in a way. Like it's just like too much. And like here he's got to like say hello to the other officer. Like, I don't know, it's just strange. And so here, just pay attention a little bit when he's speaking about Paul's birthday. I feel like he's like listening in on the scanner.
What's your son's first name? You said Paul?
Paul Terry Murdaugh.
And what's his birthday?
Jason, do you have anybody
4.
coming through town that could stop and pick up that tent? I see lighting off in the distance.
What are they covering them up?
I got some getting dressed now, Sheriff. I'll have somebody stop and grab it.
Tell them they don't have to do that.
And because he's listening in on the scanner, he tries to like distract it all. Like, what are they covering him up? And it's like, I think he's still trying to buy time to like listening in on the scanner. I don't know. Just my opinion.
They don't need to. Preserve what we can.
653. Where's it at? I'm in town.
I should try to be Delta 8 because he's going to be the only one that's got access.
What's Paul's birthday?
April 14th, 1999, sir.
Put it up as wide as you can.
Your wellness is your journey. And with almonds and
You said 99?
Sir?
He was born in 99?
He's born April 14th, 1999.
Okay. What's your first name, sir?
My name is Alex Richard Alexander Murdaugh.
Richard Alexander Murdaugh?
You familiar with the location?
No. Hey, Cody, come around the truck and then go to the building. Come around the truck and then.
There's a set of prints off behind the trailer there.
Yes.
I don't know if it's from
What's
one of
that?
ours or not. There's a set of footprints behind the trailer there too.
Okay.
That's all the kind of stuff I stay around this whole year.
Set of footprints he's pointing out.
So we're gonna step over you. Right?
8's going to be the last one in and grabbing the tent.
Just go over to that corner of the building.
I'm almost to you. Let me see what we have first and whether or not we can handle that part or not.
I see quite a few tire tracks in here. Were any of these you going in and out?
No, I came in here and I left one time and I came back.
Okay.
The rest of them, maybe from earlier, but
Okay.
only 2 are mine.
Did you go out this way at all?
No.
Well, that's right.
Hey, stay here. Got a whole bunch of stuff right there. I don't want to disturb.
No, that's why I'm trying to get the door so we can kind of get around that way.
This guy here seems like he can't follow orders.
Your best way is probably going to be back through those rocks because we can't get any tracks off those rocks anymore.
We'll go back around the other way we just came.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you have names or anything for him?
Yes.
Okay, I'll get that in a little bit then. That's
Okay.
fine.
Let me speed it up a little bit. Now here's his car. Now there's hand sanitizer there.
What unit's 23 on Moselle?
I'm curious if that was used at all.
Unit on scene. Are you behind the house?
There's several of us out here. There's a long dirt driveway right next to the mailbox that says 4147, and you'll see all our lights down here at this shed thing.
You didn't come through Brick Hollow?
Negative.
Delta 89 on duty, coming out to Moselle.
Delta 8, 653. Come on, Teddy.
Yeah. I think his brother. He said he was calling somebody. So. He said he was calling somebody. Yeah, I'm sure he was. There's a couple of shell casings right there.
Yeah, those will be easy to find. I was just marking a couple that were in the gravel. It might be harder to see at some point. Y'all familiar with this family? Yes.
I wasn't until he told me the names. Last
fill you
name
in later.
Murdaugh.
I don't think there's going to be anything from any of you.
What was that?
Did I say?
You said for Evo to do?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Hey, watch your step. Huh? There are?
Yeah.
Okay.
X-ray 1's going to be route to Moselle Road.
The gentleman in the white shirt is the husband of her, father of him. That is Paul Murdaugh. This is his mother, Paul Murdaugh.
Hey, Julie, how are you feeling?
Guy in a boating accident from a while back, if you remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most likely. He did have a firearm whenever I pulled up. It's a shotgun. It's been secured in my vehicle.
Now, if you take Paul out of the equation, who would be the prime suspect for Maggie's death? Thank you so much, Jesse. I appreciate that very much. She said, "You're the best. Thank you for all your hard work. Every day I look to see if you will be on. Have a great weekend." You too. And I might be live Monday morning. We'll see what I can put together and what takes place today in court. I'll be watching the highlights and all that. So for sure. So I don't know. Let me just skim through. I don't think Alec comes back on camera.
Blackout.
When you get a chance, can you get dispatch phone call?
You'll have to give me just a few minutes, but yes, I will.
I couldn't been further away from the phone.
Yeah.
653.
Who can start a log? Who's the most expendable that can start a log? Let's put it that way.
This is. Can you start a crime scene log, please?
A log started. Sled's on the way. Let's push. Can we run the tape?
2007 ready
there to there?
Yes.
From that last pole right there to that last
Get a
pole.
piece of paper, start writing names and times. You don't have any kind of paper?
I have a.
Here, borrow that.
We can push it from that pole to that pole.
Yep. Sure.
Thank you, Crime Sleuthin'. I'm glad you liked it.
I do see some that look old or fresh.
It looks like he's pointing out the possible ATV tracks.
I'll just hold light for you. Go away to that first. Money? Let's just keep our fingers crossed. Yeah, I think we got it.
This is 5-3, all the responding units to Murdaugh Road, stop at the road. No one else come down the dirt road. Stop at the road.
Here, 77. I'll be doing that 66 on 95. Copy.
What's the other way up here?
From back that way, I guess. Where the house is, I guess.
Okay. That must be.
You referring to the Whiskey Mike?
I'm going to skip ahead to where we see Alec again.
Maggie, Murdaugh. Margaret Randstetter, Murdaugh.
Okay, so here is the other body cam footage from the other officer. As this officer is taking down the information, this is the officer that approaches them, and Alex says, like, hey, how you doing? Or something strange. So we'll just watch that from this point of view, too.
How you doing?
What's her birthday?
I'm okay.
9/15/68.
Okay, and what's your son's first name? You said Paul?
Paul Terry Murdaugh.
And what's his birthday?
4. What are they covering them up?
I got some good breath out here. If I help somebody stop the breath in.
Tell them they don't have to do that. They don't need to.
Hey, he's asked that if we don't have to disturb anything, not to. We've got sled on the way.
We're just gonna cover them up because the family is here.
Yep.
And that's it.
All right.
Right through here, go around this way here. So this thing is strong enough.
Yes, I agree.
I told everybody else to cancel, so won't really else come down here.
Thank you.
It seemed like this guy, Crime Sleuthin', says, why didn't they stop covering them as asked? Seemed like this guy was pretty much reiterating that, like, he thinks that they should be covered. What do you think? Let me rewind it real quick. It just seemed like he was kind of like given his reasoning. And then he was like, I agree. I don't know.
Hey, he's asked that if we don't have to disturb anything, not to. We've got sled on the way.
We're just gonna cover them up because the family is here.
Yep.
And that's it.
All right.
Right through here, go around this way here. So this thing is strong enough.
Oh, he's like, I've asked them to cover him up because the family's here. I seen that he seems distraught enough. Like, what? So it's interesting that this guy who hasn't even dealt with him firsthand, like, I feel like the officer with the body cam footage is like suspicious of Alec. And I think that the guy who approached them, who Alec was like, how you doing? And he's like, I'm doing okay. I think that guy is still like suspicious of the whole scene too. But this old guy is already like off the bat, like hasn't even really, I didn't see him speak to Alec yet, but he's like protecting him. I don't know. That was strange how you can see like this guy kind of come in and then like wants to protect Alec. He must maybe know who he is, maybe. I don't know. Either way, you would think that the sheets would still kind of preserve things, no?
Yes, I agree.
I told everybody else to cancel, so won't really else come down here.
Thank you. Hey, Cody.
Okay. Thank you, chat, for letting me know. Covering them up is how the O.J. Simpson case got blown. They covered them up only in known accidents. Nikki Perez says it will soak up blood patterns. Okay, rain-soaked sheets do disturb evidence. Got you. Yeah, the fact that it was raining obviously would create different impressions and pressure. Oh boy. Yeah, there's just like a lot of unfortunate missteps here.
I need a piece of that tape whenever you get done.
I feel like this guy who's trying to lead the investigative scene here before SLED gets here is getting a little frustrated. Like, people aren't listening to him when he's saying like which perimeters to walk in. That guy like overrode him by covering them up, and he just was kind of having to deal with it. Like, I feel like this guy he's trying his best, telling them to go create a crime scene log, and then the other guy's like, I don't have any paper. And he's like, you don't have any paper? Like, I just feel like this guy is like doing his best, and everyone else around him is just like not on the same wavelength, unfortunately.
Yeah. If y'all don't mind, just mark them. Do what? Okay. I got a casing right here, so watch your step. It's 300 blackout.
Now, do we see a bit of tire tracks here? Because Maggie's there. And here's the other thing, guys. Where he parked, did he have to walk by Maggie to go check Paul? Help me out there. Is this his car and that's Maggie in that blur spot? Because if he had to walk past Maggie to go check Paul first, I'm confused by that. So let me just play a few more minutes of this, guys. I think we've seen, there might be other parts that are significant. I can go through once I'm done live and over the weekend and kind of clip things if anything stands out in my mind. I think seeing Alec on camera was primarily what I wanted to look at with you guys. And thank you, Tom, and no clue how to process a murder scene. Wow. Seemed like they were a little lost. Yeah, that's his truck right there. He said he ran to Paul first. And to me, that makes no sense. You would think that he would go to his wife, who's right there. I don't know. Whichever one he could possibly check the pulse at first and kind of see. I don't know if he could save them. When they give him paper, then he says, I have no pen. Oh man. Yeah, I agree. It seems law enforcement needs a lot more training for crime scenes across America. It can't hurt. So what I'm going to do is just play, I don't know, a couple more minutes here, guys. I don't like to go too long. So I'm going to play this and good morning, LFT. Thanks for being here. I'm going to play a little bit more of this. And then I was just thinking of like playing the 911 call all the way through without stopping, and the interview with the gun conversation all the way through that I edited, and then I'll just close out. So I guess this will be one of my goodbyes. So let me just play a little bit more here, switch the screen, play all that through, and then I'll close out for the day. And again, if CDT is live and listening, let us know if you're going live later today.
They said they had several casings by her body, but this one will be a little bit harder to find later, so I want to mark it real fast. Why are there so many shell casings and only one? Right. Okay.
This is AlexMurdaugh at 4147 Moselle Road. I need the police and the ambulance immediately. My wife and child just got badly.
Collier County Communications.
Carlton, I have an AlexMurdaugh on the line, caller from 4147 Moselle Road. He's advising that his wife and child was shot.
Okay, and sir, give me the address again.
It's 4147 Moselle Road. I've been up to it now. It's bad.
Okay. Okay, and are they breathing?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and you said it's your wife and your son?
My wife and my son.
Are they in a vehicle?
No, ma'am. They're on the ground out at my kennels.
Okay, and did you see anyone? Okay, is he breathing at all?
No, nobody.
Is she? Okay, do you see anything? Do you see anyone in the area?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
What color is your house on the outside? What color is your house on the outside?
It's white. You can't see it from the road.
Okay, is it a house or a mobile home?
It's a house.
Okay, and what is your name?
My name is AlexMurdaugh.
Okay, and did you hear anything, or did you come home and find them?
No, man, I've been gone. I just came back.
Okay, and was anyone else supposed to be at your house?
No, ma'am. Please hurry.
We're getting somebody out there to you.
Oh, man. Oh.
Okay, what is her name?
Maggie and Paul.
Maggie is her name?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And please hurry.
We're getting somebody out there to you. Me asking you these questions, don't slow them down, okay? And you sure they're not breathing? Is he moving at all, your son? I know you said that she was shot, but what about your son?
Nobody. They're not. Neither one of them's moving.
What is your telephone number? And does anything look out of place?
Ma'am, not particularly, really, no, ma'am.
Do y'all store any weapons out here?
We don't store them, but they're frequently out here.
Mm-hmm.
I need to find out if there were any out here because I know there was a shotgun. There was a 12-gauge shotgun out here. I'll have to find out exactly when that was. I think it got put up, but I'm not positive.
What did that shotgun look like?
It was a camouflage. I want to say it was a Benelli or maybe a Beretta. I can't remember which brand it is. but I don't think it was out here.
Okay.
Recently. But I'm not positive.
And the shotgun that you had when deputies pulled up, where did that come from?
I went to the house and I got a gun. Probably overreacting, but.
And was that when you pulled up and saw them?
No, I mean, I came out and I called 911 first.
Mm-hmm.
Talked to them for a little while, and then I told her.
You told her?
That I was going to go to the house.
Okay.
And that I would let authorities know when they got here that I had a gun.
Okay. Do you happen to have a list of all your guns?
I can make one. I don't have one, but I can make one.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, so we could compare if that shotgun was out here and now it's missing.
Absolutely.
Try to figure that out.
No, absolutely.
And I know living out here in the country, you probably have more than one or two.
We do. We probably have 20, 25 guns.
Yeah. Shotguns, rifles.
Pistols.
Any rifles?
Yes, sir.
And what kind of rifles?
All kinds.
Yeah.
All kinds. I mean, you name it, across the board, we have them.
Okay.
And I mean, all of them we have are, in a hunting room in our house.
You obviously got a lot of, I say a lot, you said 20 or 25 weapons.
Yes, sir.
And you know kind of what you got as far as any kind of, what kind of weapons you may have?
I'm pretty much, yes, sir.
I know you might not own them all, but can you kind of run down what you, for us, kind of what you had, what you got, there?
That I own or that's in there now?
That you own.
All right. That I own.
That's in there, or wherever they're at.
And, Paul has guns scattered all over the place. So, some of our guns aren't there. But, so you want to know all of them, or you want to know what I think is in my house? Or what was in my house on Monday?
Yeah, what was in your house? Let's start with what was in your house on Monday.
Okay, whatever was in my house on Monday is exactly what was there, minus one shotgun that y'all got.
Okay.
No guns have been moved there hadn't been any guns moved in and out of there other than when Paul was home. When Paul came home, he would ride around and shoot hogs a lot.
What would he shoot hogs with? Most of the time?
Primarily he would shoot them with Buster's gun. Because Paul had a 300 Blackout.
Okay.
And it got, he says it got stolen. And it's been gone for some time. But anyway, so he would use his brother's Blackout a lot of times.
So Buster also had a 300?
I gave them both one.
Okay. When was that?
About years ago.
Okay. More than a year ago.
More than a year ago.
Okay.
All right. So, but he would do anything. Paul had this, like a little light that I used that night. Paul would take that thing up to, by 308, and he was always rigging something. So sometimes shotguns when he would go try to kill the hogs, because the piglets would be grouped up, but normally he would have a rifle when he went to shoot the pigs. So, all right, so going back to the guns, y'all want me to tell y'all what was in there? Don't y'all, have an inventory?
I videoed the thing. I didn't write down everything that you had. I just took a random, just like a recording of what was on the gun rack or on the gun wall in the gun room that day.
And there are some more guns that aren't in that gun room, you know. I don't know how many, but, you know, like I do know there's a shotgun in my bedroom.
And I think Miss Katie, Agent Katie, walked with John and saw that one.
Okay. And I imagine there's probably some in some other rooms. I know that, I think it was we have two gun cases, one small one and one big one, and I moved some guns from the little case to the big case just because, you know, her mom and dad were in there, and I just took all the guns to the back room. But that's after the fact.
Would those guns have been in the room, in the gun room when we came up there with John?
I can't remember exactly when y'all came, but probably. I think y'all came a little bit, because it was a good while before y'all came.
Yeah, it was probably 2 o'clock before we got there.
Now, did y'all keep any guns out at the kennels?
We didn't keep guns out there, but there were always guns out there.
Okay.
You know? I mean, and I'm going to be honest with you, we were all a little bit bad about it, but Paul was the worst. You know, he was the worst.
He would leave a gun out there?
He would leave anything, anywhere. And, you know, it was not unusual for there to be guns out there.
Did y'all take the
But like I can tell you that, I mean, they told me that a 300 blackout was used in this. That 300 blackout, you know, it was not out there.
So y'all didn't use that for target practice, or he didn't have it out there with them on Monday?
No.
Okay, no, that's right, because it was in the house. So Paul said that one was stolen or lost, and it was some time ago. Was that reported anywhere?
It wasn't officially reported because I wasn't totally convinced it was stolen.
Okay.
You know, as opposed to lost. But I mean, you know, there were people told about it.
Yeah.
I know that I told John Bedingfield about it. I know that I told some other local officers about it, you know, just in case it turned up in a drug thing.
Okay.
But I didn't do an official report.
Okay.
Last question. When you were out there at 5 o'clock at the kennels in Moselle, were there any firearms anywhere on that property?
That night, that particular day?
That particular day.
I did not see none.
Thank you.